Alright, let's do this. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to another edition of the Uper Farmer Cigar Deck Talks. How's everyone doing tonight? I'm doing pretty good. Let's get down to the formalities. Early on, we are smoking the Warfighter 50 caliber. Nice cigar, Maduro, kind of a Churchill length going on here. Very tasty. For the drink tonight, we have Birch Bark Porter from Kickstand Brewing Company. That's not like a fun name beer. It's kind of in for a little bit of a porter, so we decided to try it out. Looks good. Dark, good head on the beer. A lot better than the IPA I accidentally had on the... I don't know if it'll actually be the last one if I put these in order. Look at that. Beautiful. I'll let that head go down here a little bit before we give her a taste. So let's get into tonight's story, though. Tonight, we're going to talk about a story within a story. So it was a story when I was out backpacking trying to help a guy, and then it evolved into him telling me a story. So I was out backpacking with a guy. Let's give this a try real quick. Not bad, not bad. I was out backpacking with a gentleman. I had known him through some friends of friends. We're out climbing friends. Backpacking. Suddenly, as we're walking, his knee goes out, dislocates his knee, goes to the ground. I was like, okay, well, we better get him out. We start directing the guys how we're going to extricate him. He said, no. He said, I want you to just put my knee back in location. You know how. I did. I knew how, but I told him, no, they're not going to do that. That can cause too much damage. I started giving him the song and dance. Before I could finish, he violently relocates his knee on his own. Found a wedge of a tree, popped it back into place. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my God, what did you just do? He says, something I learned back when I got lost in the woods. A couple of the guys chuckled. They'd heard this story before. I was like, all right, tell me the story. What happened? So him and another guy were hiking the North Country Trail. They're going to do 2 weeks, 14 days in the woods. And trip was going great. They were about 2 days in when he fell down the side of this ravine. Fell down, and that was the first time he dislocated his knee. His buddy hiked down and kind of quickly realized they weren't going to be able to get him out. Well, luckily they were just in the beginnings of their trip, so they were well supplied, well stocked. They weren't far off trail. Again, it was kind of a little bit of a lesser trek they were on, but it could be easy enough for search and rescue to get to them. So they kind of made the decision. And the guy's name was Tom. For Tom was going to obviously stay in the ravine, and his partner Mike was going to hike out, get help. They figured he'd leave both 10-day supplies for both people, so almost 20 days worth of food. With Tom out there in the bush, Mike would take about 4 days worth of food, just in case something happened, he got held up, and he was going to hike the 2 days back and get help. So Mike set Tom up, got him a nice little campsite, made a tent for him, gathered some firewood, left all the sterno and the camping fuel so that he could cook his food. And luckily there was a river with mostly potable water that Tom could kind of inch himself to and get some water. They filled a bunch of water bottles anyway and pre-purified them. So they said their goodbyes. Mike took off up the trail. Tom was left behind. Well, that first night, Tom was sitting there by his little campfire. He did start a fire, he said, for his morale. He knew he wouldn't be able to do that too much because quickly he'd run out of wood to gather up. And also for his morale, because he was feeling really bad, he had a harmonica or some sort of I think it was harmonica. It was some sort of wind or a metal flute of some sort. I think it was a harmonica, though. He starts playing and singing to himself. when lo and behold, he hears someone just yell for help. And he said it was the most pitiful yell he'd ever heard. He said he could tell the person mustered as much energy, and it's followed by crying. And he kind of yells, he's like, listen, I can't move. He said, if you can get to me, though, I've got a campsite, and you're more than welcome. You know, I'll get you help. I'll get you help. Lo and behold, after what sounds like some struggling in the bushes, he keeps playing his harmonica, talking to people, giving them some directions. Out of the bush emerges these two emaciated females, a mom and daughter. Very weak, very skinny, just not doing well at all. Lo and behold, they had been in the woods for the better part of a week and a half. They were on a canoe trip. Their canoe flipped over. They lost a good chunk of their supplies. The husband and father, he went back towards the trailhead, try to find help, and they're assuming he's dead and it's been gone, again, a good week and a half. Tom said, well, guess what? I've got 20 days worth of food for one person. My hiking partner should be 2 days hike out into back to civilization, get a search party, 2 days hike back. Plus there's, he could talk about how to get edibles and water, and as long as they were careful with the food, easily would supply them for the 5 days that they were going to be in the woods. So he sat around again, he told stories, he learned very quickly that when someone's been starving for a week, you don't really want to give them a lot of food to start with, because it normally causes them to vomit, which both mom and daughter did quite a bit. On the first night, he then backed up on the food, gave him some more of the soups and broths. I was able to have him collect some mushrooms and made some mushroom soup. Day 1 through 4 went beautifully. Hopes were high. He was pretty sure by day 5 a search party was going to be there. And day 5 came and went. No search party. And day 6 came and went. No search party. And he felt like crap. He's like, I could have hiked out by now. I could have gotten these girls to safety if it wasn't just for this bum knee. And he tried, I guess, to relocate it, but if you don't know, there's actually a bit of a process. He couldn't relocate it. So he was stuck here in this ravine with these girls, and the food was rapidly running out. He's trying to teach the mom and daughter how to tie fishing lures and makeshift hooks, talking to them about what mushrooms and berries are and are not edible. And day 7 comes and goes, and food situation's looking pretty dire. Well, he is racking his brain trying to think of all the survival tricks he has. He's contemplating teaching the girls how to build a raft or a litter to somehow get them out, or at least instruct them how to get the trail and how to walk themselves out. When day 8, a search party does show up. And there they are, the searchers come in, they find him, and they see these 2 girls, and he said it went dead silent, and everyone was in shock and awe and just stared at these 2 girls. They were able to extricate him and get the girls out. They got back to civilization within 2 days. They had multiple food supplies were brought to them. Doctors were brought out to them. They got him back to civilization. They backpacked him out. Well, Tom was just furious at Mike. He's like, what the hell, dude? What the hell's going on? He's like, well, here's the story. So those 2 girls you were with, I get back to civilization, and I go to the DNR or the park ranger to mount a rescue mission, and they say, no, we can't. We don't want to spare any person. He said, I was furious. I was trying to find out why, and I found out the story here about this family that went boating. Their boat flipped over. They were out for about 5 days before Dad hiked out. But when Dad was hiking out, he got disorientated and sent him down the wrong river to search for the mom and daughter. And the park ranger said, your friend's got almost 20 days worth of food. He's an experienced backpacker. His injuries are minor. He just, he can't move. Versus these girls who they only gave them, about 4 or 5 days before they'd starve to death. And he says, "You be the judge. You tell me who's more critical." So Mike then jumped in and actually helped with the search for 4 or 5 days. On day 5, he said, "This is ridiculous." He called up a bunch of his friends who were into search and rescue, and they mounted their own search to go rescue him. Some of the park rangers were like, "Well, now it's just a body recovery, so yeah, they'll go help." Lo and behold, Tom this whole time was entertaining this mother-daughter who was lost in the woods. And had they went and found Tom earlier, they would have found this mom and daughter, and they'd been out of the woods that much sooner and saved a lot of strife and heartache. So Tom said the first thing he learned is he learned how to set his need after that, how to do it in the woods. Because if it ever happened again, he wanted to damn sure know that he could do it in an emergency. If he had to do it, he could do it. So, again, that's kind of a fun little story. Just a crazy story. Hearing Tom tell this one, and he was much better telling than I am. Again, he firsthand lived it, of course. But, just a really interesting story, those unexpected occurrences. In the bush, surviving maybe on birch tea, which is a good, delicious tea, or birch beer, also delicious. This one's not bad either. There's no birch in this one, though, I can tell you that. But anyway, I hope you're entertained by that little story there, a story within a story. I then hiked with Tom for a few more times. His knee never went out again, which was good because I really didn't want to have to relocate it in the bush. But it was a skill he had learned, and it was kind of interesting story. So anyway, hope you're all doing well. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next one.